Hi, my name is Derek Skapars and I am a student under Professor Mike at Gordon College. This is the final exam. I will be going over all 10 modules and I will be giving a personal reflection on each topic. I'll provide examples and a story to go with it. The intro for this project came to me in form of video by looking and talking with you, Professor Mike. I decided that I wanted to go a little bit creative and I wanted to tell my story as a teacher and about my development getting to this place. It makes a little bit of a difference because I am not an aspiring teacher. I have 8 years under my belt and I think that needs to be noted up front. I'm also at 43 a woodworker. I am a educator and I am a night class Adirondack chair making instructor. How did this all start? First part of the module is going to be my initial reflection on personal development and my journey to where I am today. Let's go fast forward to where I am today. I work at Hull High School and I build boats and I teach wood engineering classes. It's been quite a journey and I will start with when I was really young, about 3 years old, and my first memory, when my brain was developing. The first memory I have was kind of like a flash of a memory. It's when I was with my brother in Florida, visiting my grandmother. There was 4 houses that my grandmother owned. She was wealthy at the time, and we had a breakfast house, and we got to paint there. So I remember flashes of images of putting on my dad's shirt and holding a paintbrush along with my brother. We were doing the same thing, and I just remember the shirt, the paintbrush, and the breakfast house in Florida. Kind of cloudy, but that's my first actual memory. It's a memory nonetheless, and I want to note that. Fast forward to kindergarten, I was vividly remember a clear picture of, in my head, of when I went to go and visit my kindergarten teacher, Mr. Silva's classroom in Dover, Massachusetts at the Chickering School. I got out of the car with my mom. I wasn't nervous because I didn't really comprehend what was going on. I didn't know that I had to go to school every day, but I knew that my older brother did. So I took it head on, and I saw another student walking in, kind of confused, and his name was Fletcher Malcolm. That student I remained friendly with all the way until high school. We had an understanding and a respect for each other. And I don't know if he remembers that I was his first memory, but nonetheless, I wasn't friends with him, but I respected him because he was the first student that I was entered into a public school system with that I saw and locked eyes with and said, hello. After I got into kindergarten, I remember doing some serious playing. I remember developing, I remember learning how to share, I remember the neurons, the dendrites, the synaptic connections of all that going on. I can truly recall. I remember, don't really remember much more than fragments of that age, but my brain was developing, and throughout this course I'm starting to unravel the mystery of why that has happened. Early childhood brought many memories of playing. Blocks in the recess and Foursquare at recess block building. There was a little kitchenette. We did some ABCs, we did some counting. It was a lot of fun. There was story time. I mean, it gets clearer as I go on. Still in early childhood education, I remember growing up in first grade, I had Mrs. Chase. I learned a little bit more. I learned how to read, able to remember more clearly my past experiences, and I was developing long-term memory at that point. That file cabinet that I refer to in all my pages of long-term memory, I will continue to refer to that as the long-term filing cabinet. Short-term is great for understanding things and doing stuff now, but it's what we want to do is we want to anchor stuff into our long-term memory. And how do we do that? Well, it's a developed and acquired, something that goes on as your brain gets bigger, and as you grow, you remember more. And that's the fascinating part of this class, is it makes it all make sense. As I moved into second grade, I did some more subject matter stuff. The fun got less and less. As kindergarten and first grade, it was the priority. I got into third grade and I had Miss Powers. We had a lot of fun in that class. I saw a lot of energy from that teacher. That teacher was the high school gym teacher's daughter, and she was really, really pumped to teach the class. I remember her crying on the last day emotionally, because she couldn't believe she just taught her first year as a third grade teacher. She bought a car that year. I traveled to Rio de Janeiro with my family for a Taekwondo competition, and I brought back the gold medal. A lot of good memories from that year. Fourth grade, a little bit more subject matter, a little less fun. Fifth grade, a lot of stuff going on, more playing. The social aspect of schooling kicked in as well. And I had developed in a way that I was pretty social. I had no barriers or blocks. I played well. I was in sports. I was typically just going along. I had a good family dynamics and support at home. I had two brothers, a younger sister who's 7 years younger than me, and a brother who was younger than me, and a brother who was older than me. So I was the middle child. I think a solid family dynamics, shapes the way that our brain develops in a healthy manner. How some other people might develop, well, that's where my experience as a teacher for 8 years comes into play. I was a teacher at Stetson School. It was a school for behaviorally challenged children, and they developed in a much different way. They had prison mentality aspects to them, abandonment wounds. There were some things that made me realize how happy I am that I had a solid family backing me. I used to say blood is thicker than mud. It means you go out on a limb for family when you wouldn't for others. But I've been humbled in that aspect, and in a way that I've seen some students that have nobody, that have no role models, that come into class the next day to learn how to use the chop saw, and they just robbed a convenience store. Those are what some things happen when people develop differently. Now, good or bad, that's for a different class. But I do also value family. I also value being in Dover Sherburne Public High School, Dover Sherburne Middle School. That school just took the number one spot at the best school system in Massachusetts. A little example on a side note is first year in college, because I came from Dover Sherburne, my high school English teacher was a Harvard grad. I did 5 minutes writing my paper in a parking lot, and I got the same grade as some people that would spend maybe an hour with a tutor. So I am very thankful that that has happened. I also remember entering high school. That's when it got a little nerve-wracking. Everybody remembers anxiety for the first time when they have got it. Well, if I had any anxiety, although limited, in high school is when it happened. It was social was the priority. Social interactions were the priority in my mind. I developed in a different way. I wasn't concentrated on subject matter. I didn't care about college. What I cared about was friends. I cared about being cool enough to hang with the cool kids and being cool enough to hang out with some people that maybe were in a different clique. I learned the word balance at that point. Although I didn't do it very well, I learned how balancing my social interactions, my academics, and my future goals. I learned about a lot in high school. There were many days I learned that I didn't want to go to school. I woke up and I just didn't want to go. I rebelled a little bit. Didn't get in any trouble with the law, but it was a very different scene. And then when I got into junior year, it got real. Then I said, oh boy, I have a future. My family, who I've been vouching for, I hate them, and I don't want to go to college. I wanted to go to furniture making school. I thoroughly enjoyed my high school woodshop class and my middle school class in the woodshop in industrial arts. That's all I focused on. If I had to go to school, I'd go for shop and the social interaction. I would wing the math assignments. I would do the best I could with writing, but that wasn't my focus. I was developing a different set of skills, and that was how to interact with the environment, society, and also creating a future for myself of independence. When I got to college, I believed I was a self-made man. I started to go to a lot of parties. I had the social thing down. I could pick what cliques I wanted to be in. I could turn on and off my memories. I could commit things to long-term memory if I made it relevant to myself. There were a lot of different issues, but if I found personal fascination with some subject and I could tie it into something that I would remember. Now, I do remember putting the drill down for 4 years and not doing any woodworking. and I focused on academics at that point. I finally switched gears. I got the job done. I graduated college. I became very, very confident in who I was, but I had no direction. I didn't really know that the high school shop teacher that I dreamed about becoming was going to become a reality, but it did. And how I got there is a different story for a different time, but I would like to say that the development that I had was shaped and evolved around the environment about 30%. Some of it was innate abilities, the fact that I could do simple algebra equations where there was no stumbling block. But then I would also get the talks when should be listening and doesn't hand homework assignments in on time and things like that. Anyhow, I could see that some students may develop in a way as I go to work in the morning in a way that I did growing up. I can see how some are very, very different without the family dynamics being solid, maybe checkered, maybe they live with an aunt, maybe their culture is Indonesia and here they are in America with English as a second language. That's going to influence how they develop. And also there might be some barriers or some roadblocks that I do not know. And although I won't have time to explore those barriers, I can touch on the fact that there are barriers, and there's always the way that we look different as people is exactly how people develop differently. There is no one way, no sure way to develop that way. I think we use the term differentiated learning to explain that subject matter. I take kids from where they're at and I continue to let them develop in their own way, in their own structure, as long as they achieve the final result. To conclude this module, I will say that today, at the age of 43, I am an educator, I'm an instructor, and I'm a person. I understand development, and I am student-oriented, and I am also a person that understands where people are at. I do have a history of being a counselor for several years, and so I kind of understand that somebody's mental state could get in the way of their learning, and I'm actually very easy when it comes to that. I also have a safety component in my shop, but we build boats, we build dreams, and I'm in my dream job.